All right, we are live.
Let's do it.
I mean, Dave Holmes, to what do I owe this honor? I am so thrilled to have you. Thank you so much for coming on the Small Talk podcast. This is like, you're like a legend. You're an 80s legend, an 80s and 90s legend.
Oh, thanks. That's not true, but thank you. I appreciate that.
You are into me. So
thanks.
You wrote, a lot of people might not know this, but you wrote a really good memoir. It's called Party of One. Good title. Good 90s reference there. And I was I picked it up. I was like, oh, I'll just skim through it, make sure I know enough about it. And then I started like really getting into it. Like I'm in. Like it's a really good memoir.
Thanks.
And I didn't know a lot. I honestly didn't know a ton about you. So I mean, obviously, other than the sort of public facing persona and all the stuff from your MTV days. And then I loved your podcast that you put out, which we're going to talk about. But let's talk about like a little origin story here, if you wouldn't mind, because you had such a quintessential kind of like Gen X upbringing. Grew up in St. Louis, very into pop culture, but also very in kind of a conservative Catholic family. Talk to me a little bit about like where you grew up and kind of like what was going on in your early days.
Well, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, in the 80s, 70s and 80s, which, the 80s especially were a really Reagan era, Alex P. Keaton kind of a moment in our world. And I'm the youngest of three boys. I have two older brothers who are like 8 and 10 years older. So they were sort of, never peers, sort of more like secondary parents in some ways. And they were very, very typical traditional, sportsy boys with boy interests and that kind of thing. And I just sort of, I couldn't play sports with them. I couldn't really, we couldn't talk as peers, but the one thing that we could do together was listen to the radio. They were real big into music. Both my parents were real big into music. And so that was sort of, I think that is where like I began to be drawn to music and to popular culture, just because it was sort of, it could be a shared language, in a way that really nothing else could. So that was sort of the beginning of it. And then, as I got a bit older, as I got into like middle school, I really was never much of a student. I definitely wasn't an athlete. But like, I remember in like 7th grade, I had a denim jacket with some like pins on it of bands. And I was it was after whatever practice or PE or whatever. And I was like getting my clothes on in the locker room. And there was this kid who was like one of the big athletes in the class.
Yep.
And it was a very small school that I went to, like 50 boys in a class. And he like looked at me and he looked at my jacket and he was like, "You're a punk rocker." And I was like, yeah.
It's like,
and I mean, I
identity.
super wasn't, I definitely wasn't, but it was like, oh, this is, like maybe that's my lane. You know what I mean? Is like, I'm the culture kid or whatever. Like I'm the one who like knows the bands nobody else knows about or whatever. And that was just to have like a lane to exist in was exciting.
Because, because you as a conservative family, you were gay, although you were not out at that time.
No.
Yeah. And you couldn't be because there's talk about that. Like it just,
boy. I mean, it's crazy to look back at that time. At that, like, not only at that time in history, but at that time in life, and like, discovering who you are, and like, especially when you're a young gay person, it's like, it's the kind of thing that when it's happening, you just want to get through it, right?
Yep.
And gay and the F word is still like the go-to insult for young boys. Or old boys, and you learn really young how to make it not be directed at you. You know what I mean? Like your life becomes like, how do I not get that spotlight on me? And it's scary. And in the 80s, there's AIDS, so there's like, the sort of identity that you're beginning to realize is yours you're also beginning to realize could kill you. And
Yeah.
like, in adulthood, if you are lucky enough to sort of find your people and meet someone and fall in love like everybody else, like that could kill you in like, and not only kill you, but kill you in a way that's, painful and shameful and also funny, because it's the punchline of every third joke that you hear
Mm.
for 20 years. So like, you sort of, I shouldn't say you, I tried to sort of just kind of put my head down and get through it and not feel any kind of way about it. And it really wasn't until I was out of the closet and like well into adulthood, that I and the few close gay friends that I have started to have these conversations about like what that isolation was like, and what was good about it and what was bad about it and whatever. It's I've arrived in my 50s at the idea that like actually maybe being gay is the most interesting thing about me. You spend a lot of time being like, no, it's not, I don't want to define
That's so
myself as this
interesting.
and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, and sure, that's true. But I also think that that's an animation of like internalized homophobia and whatever. I do think like having gotten through that and having done it 100% on my own and all of that, like that shit is important. And it does like, imbue certain traits, good and bad.
Do you think if you were growing up now in the same situation in 2025, you'd be more open or you think it was just always going to be that way? Because it was a different time. Like us,
It was
like
different. Yeah.
like now it's cool. It's kind of cool to be gay in certain circles, right?
But I think it still isn't in the circles that I grew up. I still don't. No,
like
no.
Like I came up and be like, "Yo, you're the gay dude," instead of "You're the punk rock." You wouldn't have. Been
yeah. But I mean, that would have been in a locker room situation. That would have been hell. You would have just been tortured.
Right.
I don't know. There's another gay kid who went to my high school, who I like know from social media now, and we were talking about this, and we actually know this now because we asked people in the faculty. There has still in 2026 never been an out gay student at our high school. Because it's Catholic and it is all boys, and that would be torture.
Yeah.
You would be, you would be isolated and alienated, and but you would have the internet, right? And you would
a place to
you have
a community, right?
A community, which is maybe good and maybe bad, because you still, if there had been fucking Grindr when I was in high school or even college, like, oh boy, I got in enough trouble
once you got to it.
Yeah.
Well, so you are the pop culture kid, and it's not like a act. Like you are genuinely into pop culture.
Yeah.
See the book, like your knowledge goes deep. And what was your first memory of MTV?
Ooh, well, I remember hearing about it. I remember hearing that it was coming. My family did not yet have cable, but in like 1981, I don't know. There was like, there was a small group. So I was in a cul-de-sac, not a cul-de-sac, like a subdivision. And there were like the kids in that subdivision were all like 3 and 4 years older than me. So like my group of friends outside of school was like neighborhood kids who were a little bit older. And so like if they were going to do a prank, I was the lookout, and one of the older kids said like MTV is coming and it's just going to all be music videos. Like the only place you would see them would be on Casey Kasem's America's Top 10, which was a syndicated TV show. You would see little clips of music videos.
I don't even remember that, but
no.
Casey American Top 10, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Do you know there's a whole station devoted to that on iHeartRadio?
Believe me, I know it well because it's.
I would imagine you would.
Full rotation, but I did notice that
it's foolish of me to even try to.
I mean, come on,
suggest that you wouldn't.
Me and my friend Josh are obsessed with that station, but we have noticed that when you get to a certain year, like I think it's 87 or 88, it starts really falling off. In terms of just the music sucks, but
well,
like 78 and then it gets better like in the 90s, but It's just
Yeah,
interesting.
top 40 music in like 1988 did get kind of
It's
dicey.
not bad. Yeah,
It
it
was
got a little dicey.
it got a little Michael Bolton-y. It got a
Yeah,
little
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
a little adult contemporary. Uh,
But
but
anyway, cut you off. So you
oh,
are
anyway, so yeah, so some kid was like, "There's going to be MTV," and I was like, "Well, that sounds like the kind of thing that I need to park myself in front of all the time." So, but we didn't have cable, and it was like a non-starter with my parents. And by this time, my brothers are both in college, so it's like just me making the case, and I was not successful in doing that. So, friends' houses had it, and any chance I could get to just sit in front of it, I would. And so I remember like the I Eat Cannibals video
yeah.
and like Lies from Thompson Twins and stuff like that, like weird Britishy stuff that was like brightly colored and interestingly coiffed and all that. And I was like, I was riveted. Um, and finally, I wore my parents down in like autumn of 1984, which is a good time
You're
to
like,
have
I
done that.
want my MTV.
I
And
want my MTV,
you
and I
got your
think the idea of ESPN was compelling to my dad, and so we got it, and that was really, I mean, that was, it was off and running by then, and it had its own sort of, it was sort of in its second life with like, you know, um, Michael Jackson had happened, and so it was
right.
like it was big, it was on the come up as like a network.
So and we're gonna get to this, but you put out a great podcast, and everybody has to listen to this podcast. It is called, I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
mangle the title because I didn't write it down, but
It's okay.
Who Killed the Video Star, or
Who Killed the Video Star?
I got it.
The story of MTV. Yeah, you did.
So
Well
the
done.
story of MTV, and that's you have to listen to this podcast because it really chronicles like from the
Thanks.
very beginning. But early on, I mean, MTV was not a thing. It like was not a big hit right away, right?
No,
What
it wasn't.
what was it that kind of pushed it into the mainstream, do you think? Like made it
Well,
there were a few things.
there were a few things. Yeah, in those early years, it didn't. It wanted to be a rock radio station on
Right.
television, so it was programmed like an AOR station, which was album oriented rock. So it would be like um, it was a lot of REO Speedwagon and 38 Special and Journey and Styx and bands that were like maybe popular on rock radio, but didn't
Right.
care so much about like making an interesting music video, right? It would
Yep.
just be like performance clips and that kind of thing. And that was not, it was interesting probably to the radio guys in their 20s who did the early programming for it. But for me, it was like I really kind of don't care.
Right.
And the people who were making interesting music videos were British artists because
Right.
they had Top of the Pops, right? Where like, if they had a song on the charts, they would either go and lip sync it in the studio, or if they were on tour or couldn't make it or whatever, they would make a music video and that would play on Top of the Pops. So the visual was a bigger part of the deal for British artists.
Right. And there a lot of these American artists were not making videos, and then they also didn't have a face for videos. It was kind of like the silent
right.
meet
Exactly.
Exactly. Talkies. And
Right.
British were making these great, and they looked amazing. I mean, we all remember Thompson Twins and Boy George and
Duran Duran and Spandau Ballet and Ultravox and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they really.
Although my first memory of MTV was Phil Collins coming in the Edge of Night, which he's not a looker really necessarily, but I do absolutely love.
He's got an appeal.
There's something about him.
There's a charisma.
I remember. I mean, that's the video that made an impression on. Like, I just remember. I think that was the first video I ever saw. So I still remember like being in my friend Marco's living room in Ossining, New York, watching that and being like, "What the f is this?"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was unlike any other thing.
It was the British who kind of put it on the map and made it different and started supplying the videos. And then Michael Jackson comes around, and that Michael Jackson's Thriller cannot be underestimated. The amount that changed music forever and the music business forever, and it really changed MTV because that was the first time they started playing black artists on MTV.
Yeah,
and that was a whole like thing.
Yeah, it was they did not play a lot of black artists at first, again because they were programmed like
Right.
NAOR station, and there were no like black rock bands. So
Right.
I think the total of it was the band the Busboys,
Mm-hmm.
who were sort of like a black bar rock
Right.
kind of band,
That was okay.
and
Yeah.
then maybe you would get some Rick James, but that was it. And so Michael Jackson was, you know, starting to make, obviously, like the Thriller album came out and was massive. Well, was like incredible. But you know, there's this video for Billie Jean, and he's in it, and he's such a star, and MTV doesn't really play it until and it's there are differing reports about this, but CBS Records says that they're like their head of their who I guess they're like the president or CEO or whatever said you have to play Michael Jackson's Billie Jean video or you will lose access to all
Right.
of the rest of CBS Records artists. And that kind of forced their hand a little bit. But also it was, you know, people were starting to talk about MTV not playing black artists. David Bowie brought it up in an interview with
Yep.
Mark Goodman. It was starting to become kind of a bad look.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure enough, Michael Jackson kind of blew the doors down.
And then it was off to the races. And also you make
the races
that when the record company started realizing that MTV could actually move units and actually sell records, which it did, then so that all of a sudden they were just all in because they realized,
of course,
TV.
Right.
It really, I mean, most people watching this are probably remember this because they're of that generation. But to try to explain this to my kids, like just the impact, there is really no equivalent now of like something so central to your childhood. I mean, I guess TikTok, but there's a lot of things like TikTok, and there's like,
and the nature of TikTok is that it's like there are 10 million content creators,
right?
And you only see the stuff that's you know that it wants you to see, or that it thinks you will like, or that it thinks will keep you in front of it.
Right.
This was one giant river from which all pop culture flowed.
So this river comes into Dave Holmes' life as a closeted gay teenager in St. Louis, and it just did. How did it change you?
Well, I mean, it gave me like a window into a world that I was not seeing. You know, it is still this way in St. Louis. You are. It's never explicitly said, but the subtext of everything is that there is one acceptable way to be a boy. You know, there's one acceptable way to be a person, to be a good person, a virtuous person. And, you know, you're supposed to be kind of conservative, and you're supposed to vote Republican, and you're supposed to dress this way, and you're supposed to talk about these topics. And that world felt very gray to me, you know, and I didn't fit into it. I didn't naturally fit into it. And so like on MTV, it was like, you know, Oz, you know, through this window, there is a world in full color. And, you know, I didn't play music. I like to write, but it hadn't occurred to me yet that I might be able to make a living that way. But it felt like a ticket into this world full of cool and colorful people that could exist somewhere, you know?
Did you ever have,
and other people who were obsessed with it too could become sort of your people, you know?
Yeah. Right. So you found your crowd, like the MTV crowd, like not everybody.
Kinda,
And then you watched different types of MTV, like you were the guy who watched MTV Raps, or you were the person that watched 120 minutes. But
or you watched late at night when you might catch an REM video or Replacements or Let's Active or something, you know what I mean? Like something a little different. I was one of those late night kids.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I don't think culture is set up in a way that something like MTV could ever happen again. I think of it the same way. Like I grew up in New York when hip hop was just starting to happen, and like, which you don't realize at the time, like this is like going to be a thing that's like going to be remembered forever. You're just like, oh, this is a cool thing that's happening in my area. I didn't realize it was so unique to New York, and I was super. I mean, I was a real early adopter of like early hip hop, but I don't think that could ever happen again. Like you could have this like very localized movement and like everybody, I don't know. I just don't feel like hip hop could ever happen again. Like in that way.
It's weird. We are too like atomized, I think, right now. Everything is like, everything is so individual, you know, there is kind of, I mean, I guess there's like Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl, and there are certain
a few things. Like monoculture things, right? Like You named the two that I know. Basically, I
Yeah.
looked at the Super Bowl recently as being one of the only events now that people kind of still rally around and like.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny. Here's an example of things being siloed that is really funny to me. And it goes back to this podcast, because I was sort of I was thinking about doing this podcast. Like a journalist named Jim Weber literally hit me up on LinkedIn and was like, I have an idea for this, like a podcast about MTV. Would you be interested in like helping me make it? And I was like, I thought like, yeah, I can help like produce, and I certainly know the people, and I would love to write it. But I was like, I don't know if I want to host it, because, MTV for me was now, God, 20
Don't
plus
even
years
say.
ago.
Yeah,
I know. My time there was long ago. and like, I was like, I don't know that I want to be like the kind of person who's always going back to that well. You know what I mean? Like there are people who, like, anytime there's an article about Studio 54, it's like the same three people.
It's true.
And it's like, God almighty, we get it. We know.
Yeah, the only
it's hard to get in. Bianca Jagger, we got it. But like, so I was like, I don't want to be one of those people. And so I talked about it with my good friend Scott Gimple, who is who at the time was the showrunner of The Walking Dead, and is now like the executive in charge of all of that whole sort of content universe. And so I said that to him, and he was like, "Let me tell you a story." He was just at like a fan con for Fear the Walking Dead, the spinoff, and he was talking to this person who had won like a trivia thing that crowned her as the #1 Fear the Walking Dead fan. And he was talking to her, and he mentioned something that that involved Rick Grimes, who's the main character of The Walking Dead. And she was like, I'm not familiar. I don't know who that is.
Right.
The #1 fan of Fear the Walking Dead does not recognize the name of the protagonist, the main character of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So he was like, you're an idiot if you are worried about like people paying that much attention to your career. He's like, nobody is. Everything is too siloed. Like, this will reach a certain group of people that don't know about your other thing that mentions MTV. Like, everything is all compartmentalized.
Right.
No, but not even your family's paying attention to every single thing you're doing. So just do it. And I'm so glad he said that, because it ended up being really fun to do. But yes, anyway, long story short, everything is really like, we're all in our own cultural universe.
Right.
Yeah,
we are. And that's why I feel like we look for things that connect us now, even more than ever. And which is kind of why,
we do.
Yeah, we do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gen X. I mean,
I don't know if young people
maybe
have or need that.
Maybe not. Maybe. Yeah. I think there's a almost tribal need for people, though, sometimes, to just feel like they're part of something, right?
Or maybe they don't know they need it.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to a young Dave Holmes, did you ever have the idea that I want to be an MTV VJ even when you were younger? Like, did you go in front of the mirror and be like, oh, this is
of course.
So it was always
no. Oh yeah. I mean, that was the dream job. I didn't have any practical, like, I didn't have a plan to get there.
Yeah.
I didn't ever imagine that it would be available to me at all. But certainly, of course, that was like the way that, the way the kids want to be, on the baseball team.
Yeah.
Like the way that, like, kids go to like a Major League Baseball game with a glove, like, it's, yeah, of course. I dreamed of being like discovered and picked up, but I didn't have.
But you didn't really follow that. Like, you didn't become like a broadcaster. Like, that's not.
I did kind of. Yeah. Well, there was a really good college. Actually, it wasn't a college radio station. It was like a community radio station that broadcast out of a college in my neighborhood, and it was like, it had like a 5-mile radius where you could hear it. And they would, in the mid 80s, they would play like, what we called college music, right? Which would be like REM and The Replacements and Let's Active and all that shit. And so I, of course, listened to it. And as soon as I was able to like get there on my bike when I was like 14 or 15, I showed up and I applied for a show and I got a show. So from when I was like 15 on Saturday afternoons, I was on this little tiny local radio station and I loved it. I
Yeah.
didn't, I don't know that I felt like, oh, I'm going to be a DJ for the rest of my life, but it was just exciting to be near all that vinyl, honestly.
Yeah. I had a radio show in college, Finesse Radio. I was Kid Finesse.
Yeah.
It was a
Kid
whole,
Finesse, that's
I was
behind
Kid.
you right now. I was going to ask about that.
You're gonna ask about Kid Finesse? Yeah, I
Yeah.
was Kid Finesse. But anyway, my parents kind of steered me away from being a DJ. They were not thrilled with me because I like you wanted to. I don't know if I wanted to be a VJ. I never even went there. I just went into the DJ. Yeah, I loved that. I loved being around vinyl. I loved getting on the microphone. I guess I still do. Hey, look, I'm living out my
look what we're doing.
Look what we're doing right now. But I did love it. But so you did that, but then when you became like more of an adult, you moved to New York. I'm just giving, I'm doing the fast version here. You moved to New York, where you could, that was definitely not St. Louis anymore. There you could find your community. You didn't have to be so closeted. Like,
yeah.
The New York that you lived in, I think we lived in a similar New York because we're not that different in age. I'm a little older than you. But like the 90s New York was I have a very nostalgic, incredible memory of 90s New York. I don't know about you. Like,
oh, of course.
I mean, we could go talk about the clubs we hung out at. And I mean, that was my peak New York time, right?
Sure.
You were working in advertising. I was working in the magazine business, which were both.
Where were you working?
I worked at Condé Nast. I worked at Glamour magazine. I worked at Maxim. But I also worked at like some really, I did a lot of stuff for teen magazines. I worked at this magazine called Twist, which I started with my friend Lisa Lombardi. I worked at a lot of different magazines. Not Esquire, not one of your babies. But yeah, like a bunch of different ones. And it was I've talked about this on the show before. It's hard to explain to people who were, like, first of all, what magazines even are. My kids like don't even understand, but
oh god,
like, it was, and nobody ever expected it to its demise like it did. But at the time, that was the kind of cool job to have. Didn't pay that well, but it was super like fun to be plugged in. You were also in advertising, which was also like a hip hot industry.
It was a cool it was a cool job. It was it was like peak magazine. Excuse me. So like in those early, like I guess I did maybe 4 years in that business, and and basically, I was, I didn't get super far. So like, the pay was never great. I started in media, and then I got into like account management, and I hoped that at some point I could make a lateral move into creative, but like I never, that is such a track, and you got to have your portfolio, and you have to have, all that kind of thing. So I just never.
I remember thinking
never was able to do that.
They actually pay an like that was always the thing. Advertising paid, journalism, like magazines didn't, and I was like, why am I in the wrong field?
It's a tough move to make. But what was cool about advertising, even though like in the area that I was working in, the pay was not great, but like 3 nights a week, a magazine would be throwing a party. So that would be dinner. I would go and have like, mini quiche.
What clubs for dinner back then? Did you?
I was not a big clubs guy.
Okay.
No, no. See, when I first got there, I lived on the Upper East Side, and I was definitely living that like post-collegiate sort of
Dorian's
like,
Red Hand.
Dorian's kind of existence. Pedro's.
By the way, I was at Dorian's the night of the night. Like I was actually there the night.
Wow.
Yeah. When Robert.
Oh my God.
I have memories.
Were you questioned?
I was not questioned, but I have memories. My friend was working as a bartender that night. My friend from high school, or maybe a bar back. He wasn't really like very lofty there, but yeah, I have real memories of both of them. This is Robert Chambers and Lisa. What's her last name?
Jennifer Rubin.
Jennifer
Levin.
You got it, Jennifer Levin. But anyway, Dorian's is famous for the Robert Chambers. They met there, and then that was terrible tragedy. But that was the place to go in the Upper East Side. So, but if you were on the Upper East Side, that wasn't like a downtown scene. You weren't a downtown.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And I couldn't. I honestly, I couldn't afford it. Like the cover charges were too much. So, like, I think I did Nell's like once. I certainly tried like Twilo or the Roxy or the Tunnel or whatever the big far west side like cavernous gay clubs were.
Yeah.
But I did not have the body for that. Like that was, you walk in, you take your shirt off, it's shoulders and abs everywhere. And it was like,
You're just like,
ooh,
not me.
no, nope.
I'm looking at Dorian's red hand body.
Yeah, get me in front of a loaded baked potato at Dorian's. But yeah, I was not a big club person, aside from going to shows, which, the shows would be at Brownies and the Mercury Lounge and Bowery Ballroom and Irving Plaza and all that. Like those were great times.
Great times. When did you decide I am going to audition to be an MTV? Well, you entered this contest. They did a want to be a VJ.
Yeah.
Show, and you entered. When did
I did.
And now was it like on a lark, or were you like, this is my big chance? Like, what was the kind of
Yeah, I was excuse me, I was working in advertising still, and I really had like I took a year or so off, and was like auditioning and doing improv and waiting tables and temping and that kind of thing, and actually making more money than I was making in advertising. But I was like, I'm in New York City, I should be trying to do something else. Like I shouldn't be in a job I hate if I'm going to live in New York City. It's hard and it's expensive and it's, I could be doing something I hate in St. Louis and I could own a home,
Yeah.
So I'd taken like a year to sort of figure myself out, and then another advertising job opened up, so I took it, and I was at that job and not liking it and remembering why I had left, and I was checking Billboard magazine because I think it was a Thursday when the charts came out. So I was checking to see what was in the Hot 100, and off on the sidebar there was a news item that MTV was holding an open call for VJs, and I was like, "Well, I'm going to go stand in line." And it wasn't like, I don't think the article said that any of it would be televised,
right?
But they were going to do a thing, and they were obviously going to promote it and all that. So so that Monday was the day after Easter. And my friends and I had taken the Staten Island ferry to Staten Island and back because we couldn't afford to do the Circle Line, but it was a nice day, and so that was how we spent our Easter. And I set an alarm for like 4 a.m. because I was like, I'm gonna need to get in early. I am not the kind of person who's gonna I'm not a big crazy character. Like if I want to be seen and paid attention to, I'm gonna have to get there before they get fatigued. Right. And so I set an alarm for like 3:45 or 4 a.m. or something crazy. And I remember it going off in my alarm and like rolling over and looking at the giant red digital numbers and the absurd hour that I was getting up. And like my eyes were burning. I was so tired. And I was like, I remember there was a voice inside me that was like, what are you doing? Go to your job. This is not, what are you doing? They're not gonna, this isn't for you. You're too old to be doing this. I was like 27. Like this is a foolish thing and you should abandon it and go be a normal person. But something got me out of bed and into the shower and into a taxi cab and into Times Square. And I stood in line, and that was like a Monday. So, and I didn't go to work that day, although I was in and out and plenty of time to go to work. But I was still like, I need to think about this all day. I can't be at my desk. And then they were like, by Tuesday at midnight, we'll have chosen a top 10. And I like talked to a few people kind of in the, like I had an initial, this is a long answer. I had like an initial thing. Okay. You'll regret that. But yeah, there was like a thing where I had to read a cue card and answer a couple questions. And then the person who interviewed me like gave me what I would now recognize as like the golden ticket, like from American Idol, to go to another room and talk to like people from the talent department. And then that was a whole thing. And then they sent me home and they were like, if you make the top 10, you'll know by midnight on Tuesday. And so that Tuesday night, my roommates were both traveling for work. And I got like a stack of movies, and I think I ordered pizza, and I sat there with the phone in my lap And
Cool. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
yeah. And then at like 11:30, I was like, well, this isn't happening. And I started journaling about the experience in my like think pad. And at like 11:57, they called.
Wow.
And they're like, you're in the top 10. And then it was just like, honestly, then from then on, it's an absolute blur. Like literally the next 5 years are a blur.
Right. It's just
But
everything changed in your life after that phone call.
literally everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overnight. Crazy.
And, I mean, I can't even imagine what that must have been like. And when you found out, and then, when you started actually being on air, I mean,
Mhm.
were you freaking out? I mean, this is really your first.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, I mean, yes, but also no. Like, I don't, I, uh, I remember, okay, so I didn't get the job, like, or at least not
Spoiler alert.
on the live show. I didn't get the job.
Right.
I came in second. And
Good.
so I just,
Well-known guy named Jesse Camp.
yeah, Jesse Camp, yeah, who's still out there.
Do you ever
We,
talk? I'm not going to ask you the 3 questions that you always get about Jesse Camp.
yeah, it's fine.
Well, you get 3 questions. You get, what was he really like? Is he really like that?
Yes.
Which you always answer, I don't know, or something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. If there's
Uh,
another side of him, I have not seen it.
right. And you also you get what's the other question? I don't remember. Anyway, you said
Yeah.
that for most of the rest of your life, you've got the same 3 questions about Jesse Camp.
Yeah. And that's
It's big.
fine.
Kudos.
But yeah, he is
Anyway,
just like that. And
so
yeah.
I'm sorry. So you
No.
you didn't get the job,
Didn't
the
get the job.
main job, but you ended up being obviously we all know who you are. So you ended up getting a great role anyway at MTV.
They did hire me. Yeah. So I after the thing was over, after the live event ended, I was just like, go to the wrap party, because there was going to be a wrap party, and like just get everybody's business card, because it had been, this Wednesday to Saturday of this event had been, really busy, and I met so many people in so many departments, and I thought, like, I could get a job maybe as a writer or a production assistant or something. Like I could be a part of this somehow, but I need to, like, that needs to be job one. Like, I need to go and get everybody's business card, and first thing Monday morning just start calling and emailing, which I did. And so I ended up, I think, with a writing job for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after, writing
Right.
for like a weekend countdown special or something.
Right.
And which I was so thrilled to be doing, and to have a pass to the building and all that. And then it was, because I was around and in the halls, and this thing had just kind of freshly happened. And this was now April, May. They were gearing up for the summer house, which is where they debut a lot of new shows and try out a lot of new concepts and that kind of thing. And so they were piloting a bunch of new sort of ideas for summer shows. And because I was there, and because I think, some of the people making the decisions maybe felt kind of bad for me, or like related to me, because that place is so full of like pop culture obsessives. So from that, they asked me to like test for one of these pilots. And while I was like filming that pilot, like my boss's boss's boss, like the head of production, who was like 28, called and called the set, and somebody put me on the phone, and he was like, MTV Live needs a host tomorrow, because everyone's going to be gone. That was at the time the 90-minute show that they were doing pre-TRL in the studio overlooking Times Square. And he was like, do you want to host it tomorrow? And I was like, yeah. And I literally never hosted anything. I'd never done, aside from like community and college radio.
Right.
But they made me the anchor of a live show for 90 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which is insane.
Right.
And like, the sensible thing to say would have been no, but of course I wanted to do it.
Of course you wanted to do it.
It's my dream. And I think I was just too shocked to be nervous,
Yeah.
It was just too strange. And once they did put me on, live TV with like a producer talking in my ear and a, a teleprompter and then, a cue card or whatever, all this stuff going on. That was like the first time in my life that I felt completely calm, because I am severely ADHD afflicted. And so like in that moment where there were like 13 things to pay 10% attention to, I was like, oh, I can function in this environment beautifully. Like this is a reality that I can.
Well, it was where you were meant to be. It feels like
it really felt
to this.
Yes, for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, this is what I do.
That's amazing.
And it was incredibly cool.
And
I'm still,
at all?
Oh, of course, you always do. But like that's part of it, and that's why like that's one of the great things about MTV is that like if you fuck up, that's part of the charm. That's part of why people tune in. It's supposed to be a little scruffy and a little,
that's
unpolished,
right? Real and authentic, and that's why people.
Yeah.
I think you said in your story, you said something like to De La Soul. You said like something like, "Oh, that's stupid fresh," and the guy said something like, "Don't ever say that."
Yeah, it was Dr. Dre or Ed Lover. Yeah,
they were like,
"Don't ever say that again." Yeah, which is great. Great, he should have said that. Yeah.
When you look back at that time, you say it's all a blur, but are there certain memories from that time that are just like, wow, that is an experience I will never forget? Like maybe interviewing somebody, or there's probably so many.
There's so many. It's funny. So like Damien Fahey, who came after me as a VJ, and Gideon Yago, who was an MTV News guy while I was there. The three of us have dinner regularly, and a thing that comes up a lot among the three of us is like now people are finding old VHS tapes and digitizing them and putting them up on YouTube or on on their Britney Spears fan Instagram account or whatever. So like things from that era are like resurface a lot now, and people will tag us in them. And when I see one that I did, I'm always like, oh, good for him. Like I don't remember. I'm literally seeing it for the very first time. I don't remember it happening at all. And it's like, oh, okay, good. He seems like he's having fun. I'm happy for that kid. But like, yeah, absolutely me, but a completely different person. It was all too surreal, just too. It was surreal. But yeah, of course, I got a million. I got to interview Joe Strummer.
Wow.
And I proposed marriage to him because he said he was going to try to run for office in the States, and I was like, I will marry you, and I meant it. And like Liz Phair and like it just it was all too strange.
What was were there any real tough interviews? Like sometimes interviewing rock stars can be tough because they try to be funny or they try to be like they almost don't want to. I don't feel like the Beatles. I was talking about this yesterday with somebody about how like the Beatles set up this thing where like they never did like a serious interview. Like you could never, and there's like a thing when you're interviewing musicians, a lot of times they just won't be serious with you because it's like not be serious. And so that can be tricky.
I generally found that there was like an inverse relationship between how big somebody was and how difficult they were, right? Like Tom Cruise would do anything, right? Like he was just super fun, and of course he's like got charisma levels that are off the charts. And he was great. This is not real, but this is just an example I'm using. Like the third lead on the TV Clueless would be hard to work with. She wasn't. I'm not, but just like that level.
Calling right now, she's like,
the person from Temptation Island.
No, I totally find the same experience in interviewing celebrities throughout my career, that the people that were the most difficult and also had the most difficult representation, like in terms of their publishers and stuff, are always like third tier. The big celebrities are a joy to work with.
Exactly. I don't know why people can't make that compute. Also apparently, and I don't remember this, but apparently Blur were really difficult.
Really?
I in fact do not remember that I even ever interviewed them, but I did. It was on 120 minutes. The video for Tender, I think, was premiering, and that just hit Instagram or something, and somebody sent it to me and was like, God, these guys are not being nice to you. I was like, okay, well, then I'm not going to watch. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
apparently they were a pain in the ass.
Was there so you did so many things. You hosted TRL, you
Mhm.
120 minutes. You mentioned the beach houses. Was there a gig that you particularly loved? Like you were like, this is the gig I want.
Oh wow. Well, when I the second beach house that I was there for was called the Isle of MTV. It was in the Bahamas, and we literally all lived in a Club Med for 3.5 months
God,
in the
that's
summertime.
yeah.
It was all, all the young, everyone was within a few years of each other, like all living together essentially like in a dormitory in paradise for the summer. And of course, that was great for all of the reasons that you would imagine that it would be great. But that was the summer that that I started doing Say What Karaoke. So that was like, it was the third, I think, regular show that I was working on, but it was the first with like an audience and judges and like a format. And it was one of those where we would do, a whole season's worth in like 3 days. And so we're doing like 7 or 8 episodes a day, just like cranking them out. And I remember being like, this suits me really well. Like I really like getting into this zone and just getting it done. That was God, that was really fun. It was really fun.
Fun times. So
Yeah.
it all ended, well, at least the VJ gigs at MTV. You found, I mean, a lot of people, it's been hard, it's been hard for all of us Gen Xers to always have to pivot and find new things to do,
Yeah.
right? You know, that was a thing for a while to be at MTV VJ. Like that was the ultimate height of, the height of a career. And I was a magazine editor and never thought that would change. I thought that I would be a magazine editor till I was, 65, and then I would get my corner office and they would set me off into the sunset. I think we all kind of thought like MTV was never going to go away.
Right. It's an institution.
It's an institution. But it did, as we know, it's sort of gone away. Although I want to ask you about that because I don't even understand if MTV is still around or not. I should probably just ask you now. There were rumors of MTV actually being dead, I think are wrong.
Yeah.
Correct?
They are wrong. Yes. So here's the thing. And it's incredibly frustrating. And it is an example of why we do need certain institutions.
Yes.
So the story that came out last autumn was that in Europe, the digital music video only suite of channels that MTV Europe does, which are like MTV Hits and MTV 90s and things like that, were going to be discontinued New Year's Eve of 2025. They were going off the air. So that was the story. The story then, like news sites reported that story, and it's like the truth of the story, which is it's those digital channels that are in that, like on some people's cable package or whatever, or like on Pluto or whatever the Pluto or Tubi of Europe is. Those are going away. So that's the story, and that would be like in the first paragraph of the story, but the headline would say like MTV discontinuing New Year's Eve. So then news aggregator accounts just read the headline, don't read the first paragraph of the story, and write the story that MTV is being discontinued New Year's Eve of this year. Right. And then everybody starts sharing that. And so like people that like your peers and people who like even kind of work in media sometimes are like sharing these stories.
I didn't do my research enough. Yeah, I thought it was gone.
From like, Pop Weasel 69. And it's like, well, who's that? And when have you trusted that voice before? Anyway, so it became a whole thing that MTV is going off the air. Yeah. And the week of, I'm getting calls from like legit news organizations, like asking for a comment about it because I've done this podcast and I have my history with the network and all that. And it's like, it's not happening. Like you just got the story wrong.
Yeah.
And and I guess there's no like PR department at Paramount is sort of mid-merger and everything's in chaos. And the PR department from my day at MTV would have
They would have
taken care of business on
exactly.
that. But nobody, I don't know, I guess that was nobody's job. So MTV is very much still on the air. Now it is not what it was. It's not, they probably play music videos late at night, but the main thing is ridiculousness,
Mm-hmm.
of which there are like literally thousands of episodes.
Right.
Teen Mom, Jersey Shore, acquired movies, Pitch Perfect and Mean Girls and that kind of thing. It's still there. It's still profitable. Its median viewer is something like 48 or early 50s or something. It's older because it's linear cable. But our like digital like music video only channels like MTV Jams and MTV Hits and MTV 90s are still on the air.
Right.
Everything is as it was. So Paramount, which acquired Viacom, is now in charge of the MTV brand. David Ellison, who is in charge of Skydance, which is now part of Paramount, has said that he wants to keep MTV and do something with the brand. He hasn't spun it off the way that networks are getting spun off in all this consolidation. So it still exists, and a new iteration is being discussed, but I don't know anything more than that. But yeah,
And you still
yeah.
And you still, I mean, you still exist, and you've managed to. I mean, what I was really getting when I wanted to talk to you about is, and I think this is always really inspiring to people who are around our age, is that your industry changed. You had to change. You had to sort of reinvent yourself. And I'm curious, like people might not know like what Dave. I mean, I'm starting to tell them like what Dave Holmes has been up to for the last 20 years. But I was very impressed that you got, first of all, that you're writing for Esquire, that you're like a journalist now, right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
kind of like your thing. What are you writing for Esquire?
Well, I do
at large at Esquire.
I'm an editor at large for Esquire, which is a cool title. That really just cool. Means it just means I'm a freelancer with a title. But I do. I kind of sound off on whatever I feel like sounding off on the website, which is great. And then I have like a kind of a humor column in the front of book, in all the print issues. And I now do like celebrity profiles. I did the cover with Seth Rogen last year and Pedro Pascal like a year or so before that. So like once a year or so, I get to do like, the big celebrity profile, which is like really fun to do and fun to learn how to do. And it came
for long periods of time, or do you sometimes just have to do it like,
both.
Or do you like spend a few days? Yeah. Okay.
Both. Yeah. That all came from, so I was still primarily working in TV in my first few years in LA. But the TV I was doing was like, I got so spoiled at MTV because so much of it was live and so much of it was, like I said, unpolished. And if you make a mistake, you just keep it in. Most of TV is not like that. So the stuff that I was doing for the few years after was like lucrative, but really tedious. And, you got to do a million takes of everything. And it was like, I'm lucky to be doing it, but I missed the opportunity for self-expression. So I like started a Tumblr.
Oh, wow.
I started like blogging.
Yeah.
And I loved doing it. And then from there, I just like, I DM'd the editor of Vulture when the X Factor was starting. And it was like, do you have anybody recapping that for you? I would love to recap that. So I started recapping that. And then that led to a column at Vulture, and my editor at Vulture then moved to Esquire and brought me along with him. And I've just been there ever since.
Well, I mean, I
feel crazy lucky.
For it. Like you've always kind of gone for it, right? Like you just,
yeah.
I mean, people say no to you sometimes too, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Of course. Yeah. Mostly, but
mostly say no to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even say no to Dave Holmes. And then you also started producing podcasts, which, and this MTV one's fantastic. And then you did another one. You did another one about a one-hit one, or about a band that never took off, right?
A no-hit wonder.
A no-hit wonder, sorry.
Never recorded anything wonder. Yeah. Sudden Impact from the Boyz II Men Motown Philly video. That was so much fun to do. I mean, both of these have been.
So are you going to continue doing podcasts, and is that something that
you're into? I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like essentially like what I have sort of figured out is that like I am a storyteller, and
Mhm.
sometimes that's, being on camera, doing an interview or talking about an artist or being on the air on Sirius XM or whatever. And sometimes that's writing and sometimes that's like, telling stories that are somewhere between a magazine piece and a book that like fit the world of podcasting really well. So yeah, I just kind of like to tell stories in all different formats.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you, and I'll let you go soon. Do you think that MTV
Okay.
could have done anything differently so that it would be like on par with what it was in 1995 and 1998 and all? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. I mean,
or was it just inevitable that, you know, what it by the very nature of what MTV was, and there was no way it could
yeah.
survive in 2026.
It couldn't survive as what it had been for
Hmm.
sure because the world was changing. So like in the early in like the early aughts when YouTube happens and when social media starts to happen, instead of instead of like trying to work with it and trying to like be a part of it, the network is not being run by like creative people anymore. It's being run by accountants and like people who are thinking about like the quarterly earnings call and seeing what like YouTube is the way that it's starting to erode the audience. And so they, instead of trying to be nimble and working with it, they sued it. Like they sued YouTube
Mm,
because there were like Viacom clips on there that were unlicensed or whatever, and it was like they
yeah.
positioned themselves as in opposition to the future that was coming, rather than like listening to young people and putting young
Yeah.
creative people in charge of the brand. It was Sumner Redstone's, favorite bean counters and attorneys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I
I'm trying
mean, who knows? Who
to
knows what
of
they could
that
have done?
happening now where like that mistake gets made a lot. I mean, I feel like magazines made that mistake too. The internet came along and they kind of like
Mhm.
they didn't I mean, they started having websites, but it wasn't like they never like when I worked in magazines, the websites were sort of the evil stepchild, like this the kind of
Yeah.
stepchildren. Like you would work at a website if you couldn't get a job at the actual print magazine, right? But then
Hmm.
then the students became the masters. Um,
Right.
and yeah, I felt like that mistake is made all the time where it's like this
Oh
new
yeah.
technology is coming and then the old technology doesn't really want to adopt it. It's probably at the same something's with AI. I don't know what the hell's going to happen with AI.
Oh dear
There's
God.
God
Dear
knows.
God.
Does it worry you?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the I feel grateful that it's not very good right now.
Very
You know what I
bad.
mean?
It's very bad at
Yeah,
what you do. Yeah.
it
It's
is.
very bad at
Yeah.
yeah.
It's very clunky, and that's good. But I guess that won't always be the case. It is. I do wish that it could be like this thing is coming, and it's going to free us from like having to work to live.
Yep.
So we're just going to get it on 3D printing food, and everyone's going to be able to live comfortably, and we're just going to all dance
Yeah, do
and
what we want
eat.
to do. Yeah.
We're going to do what we want to do. But no, it's not that. It's like it is only going to make the very wealthy very wealthier, and the rest of us are going to be
And then
scrambling.
I hate that the idea at first was, "Oh, it'll help us fold laundry so we can do creative stuff." But actually the
Oh,
first thing
well,
it came after was the creative stuff, and it actually has
mhm.
trouble folding laundry apparently. It's not very good at folding laundry. It's
No,
hard to
it's
make,
not.
but it's really coming after all the creative jobs. And you're right, it's not very good. Although I do find
Mhm.
the writing is getting better. Like if you work with it, you can't deny like, okay, it's definitely improved. Like it's not gonna write an article for me, but it definitely knows like about things about writing, and it kind of pisses
Yeah.
me off. Probably learned it off us in our writing because it just studies
Hmm.
what we've written.
Yes. Yeah, I
Kind of
know.
knows
Yeah.
my style. Like I'll type something and be like, "Oh, you want this in a John Small style?" And then it's like, dude, I mean, it's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
It's like not really, but it's like kind of understands a little bit about the way I write. Um,
Yeah. Oh, it scares me to
it's
death.
creepy, and but I
Yeah.
definitely think as far as like talent, like on air talent, like having a nobody wants to watch an AI host a
No.
a show. Like, I don't think anybody
No.
will ever even if it's realistic looking, I just think it's too creepy and people don't like that.
Yeah, and I mean, somewhere in you,
Yeah,
it's not
it's not.
real.
It's
Yeah,
ruined.
and
It's ruined. I mean, it's already ruining social media, which is social media was probably needed to be ruined anyway. But like,
yeah, thank God.
you scroll through it, you're just like, oh, that's just AI slop, AI slop. Like, I don't even enjoy watching videos anymore because to me, it's all fake.
Yeah,
Like the cute animal videos that I used to think, oh, there's so cute, like this cute animal.
yeah.
Now I'm like,
No,
that's
real.
yeah,
Yeah. There was speaking of the demise of MTV, like somebody made an AI video. There was like this obituary for MTV, and it came out in like early January when it was like, turn on your fucking TV. It's on. It
yeah,
didn't go away, but it's this like montage of like it's like an AI Carson Daly in the studio, and the lights go down and he bows his head, and like literally Beavis and Butthead like sitting on their couch and like a slow tear goes down one of their faces. Exhibit, the lights go off in the Pimp My Ride garage. It's just this like hideous tacky montage of like all these people mourning MTV, and it's
have you
like,
been in any
okay,
of these AI montages yet? Have you
I have
seen?
not. I have not. Thank goodness.
I
Yeah.
mean, every time somebody dies, there's always that montage of them walking through,
Dude,
this.
if I see that goddamn picture of James Van Der Beek, Screech, Shannon Doherty, and Luke
Yeah,
Perry all together, arm in arm,
I know.
like just fucking close your eyes and imagine that image if you need to see it.
Yeah,
Keep me out of it.
yeah. I don't want it.
Don't try to make me believe in an afterlife where Shannon Doherty lets Dustin Diamond that close to her. It doesn't exist.
I know.
But stop it.
Stop it. Please stop. Oh,
Stop.
goodness. Well, okay. What's next on your, anything that we can tease here? You got something, what have you been working on these days?
Ooh, well, I'm
Gen X Con?
Gen X Con, perhaps. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just just working on stuff for Esquire right now. Yeah, I don't know what my next like big assignment is. I just wrote a thing yesterday about that horrendous cursed RFK Jr. and Kid Rock video where they're drinking milk in a hot tub, which is
Is that real? That's not AI? Oh my God.
that could only be real. That is too stupid not to be real.
That's stupid.
But I wrote a piece about it, and it has done well. And I was literally just talking with Michael Sebastian, the editor in chief, about like he was like that should be like a vertical that we do, like the tacky Republican beat,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because rich people, all they want to be is cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like and it's like the ones who are leaning Republican right now need to know how fucking tacky they look. You know what I mean? It's like it would be a public service.
At least the
To
left
like,
always going to keep the cool mantle. At least we make fun of your
yeah,
shows, better music.
yeah.
We're
And we
just
got cringy shit too, but yeah,
yeah,
we have all the cooler shit.
yeah. Dave, this has
Yeah.
been such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. Let's do it again.
And let's do it again. I'm excited to have found you, and I think everybody else is super excited. Let me see if anybody has any questions for Dave. Oh God,
Is
I
there
don't
a chat?
There's like a little chat on the side here. Some people are like,
chat.
keep this going. Lori Majewski says, loving this. Keep going with the details.
Hey,
Lori.
Lori.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So we will post this for those who missed the beginning. I will post this shortly on my Substack. Are you on Substack, Dave? You're not really a Substack guy.
Well, I've been toying with it.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't officially done anything yet.
Do you have a name? Can people follow you or subscribe?
Yeah, I mean, I literally haven't done anything.
Okay, you haven't done anything. Nobody subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, I mean, you could go find it.
You don't really need to. You have Esquire. I mean,
well,
it's interesting. You have to find your lane. I mean, what would be your specific lane? Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm on a quest to get old guy jacked. So there is sort of like there is some content that I haven't published or anything yet. That's all about like nutrition and peptides and exercise and
our friend. This is our friend, our mutual friend. He's the connection on all this for sure.
Oh yes, we do have a mutual friend who's big in that world. Yeah,
he's big in that world. A lot of us with him personally.
Yeah. So Operation Jacked Old Guy is something that may or may not drop soon. And maybe this will be a way to
have you been up to
build buzz?
You been up to Biograph yet in San Mateo?
I have not.
You know about it?
But it's on the list. Yes, it is.
I went up there. We can talk.
Yeah.
I did it. Biograph for our listeners is like an 8-hour full body test of, they check everything. They give you like a anyway, they do all these body testing on you, full body scans, and they have you running on treadmills, and then they give you this very detailed analysis of like, I was so scared they would find something. I mean, I am not,
Sure, of course.
I mean, knock on wood, they didn't. And it was great for my peace of mind, because now, at least for the next few years, I know I'm probably going to be okay, because they didn't find anything serious, or,
because the exact date of your death that they give you.
Yes. As you leave
at the end is a few years.
And they're like, by the way, 5 years, this is not going to be such great news. No, but it was very interesting. But that's an interesting thing to do. It's not cheap, but I recommend a Biograph up in anyway, Dave, great talk.
Sponsored by Biograph,
where you can go to get your body scanned. If you're interested in having an hour-long full body scan, that is the only good thing about that scan, was that you get to watch MTV or whatever you want to watch. They have a television set that you can watch while you're getting a full body scan. Yeah, which is smart.
I mean, it's the way the elite find a tumor.
Yes, that's it. Biograph.
Yeah.
It is. No. But Dave, this has been a pleasure, and
it really has. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll see you soon. All right.
Yes, hope so.
I'm gonna end the stream. Hold on.